who doesn't look at the college football rankings. Uh, number one because even though they had a terrible offensive performance last week against Wisconsin, they do have probably the best win of the season over Ohio State. And I've still got Ohio State at number two. They blew out Northwestern last week at 31-7. That was okay, but I would have thought that they would have won by even more than that because the Northwestern is a horrible uh, team, and the college football playoff rankings, top two are the same as mine still. And Indiana, I've got it number three. They are undefeated, which is why I have them at number three. And even though so far they don't have a win against a great team, they will get their chance this week. And They didn't play this past week, but this week when they play Ohio State, if they don't win that game, they will probably be number one in my rankings, and there's a chance they could even be number one in the college football playoff rankings. The college football playoff rankings that still have Texas at number three, and I've got Ole Miss at number four, the highest ranked SEC team, and they didn't play last week, but I've got them at four because they've beaten Georgia and haven't played Alabama or Tennessee, who I've got tied at five with Georgia. I've got Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee all tied because the Alabama's beaten Georgia and Georgia's beaten Tennessee and Tennessee's beaten Alabama. So it wouldn't be fair to rank any of those higher than the other. And I've got Texas at number eight because even though they have the best record of all of the SEC teams, the only one of the four SEC teams that I've got ranked ahead of them that they have played is Georgia, who beat Texas. And the college football playoff rankings have Penn State at four and Indiana at five and Notre Dame at six and Alabama at seven and Miami at eight. Texas, didn't do very well last week against Arkansas. And Alabama just played Mercer, and they did what you would expect them to do. They blew them out, winning 52-7. And I've got Notre Dame at number nine. They played Virginia, who was a terrible team last week, and won 35-14. So they did okay. Ole Miss is number nine in the college football playoff rankings, and I've got Penn State at number 10, and the college football playoff rankings have Georgia at number 10. So Penn State played Purdue last week and destroyed them up 49-10, which is what you would expect them to do because Purdue is one of the three worst teams in the Power Four with Florida State and Mississippi State. And I've got Miami at number 11, and Tennessee is 11 in the college football playoff rankings. And My honest opinion would be that of the five SEC teams that I've got ranked in the top 10, is that Tennessee is the worst team of all of them, and that Ole Miss and Alabama are the two best teams of them. But Miami didn't play last week, and I've got them ahead of BYU, who I've got at 12 because even though Miami and BYU have both had several close wins and Miami's defense has been a big disappointment. Miami has so much more talent on their roster than BYU does, and getting talent is the biggest part of being able to have a really good football team. It's not the only thing, but usually the team with more talent does win the game. And I think that if Miami and BYU played, Miami would win that game. And Boise State is at number 12 in the college football playoff rankings. And I've got SMU at 13. They played Boston College last week and won 38 to 28. And SMU is also number 13 in the college football playoff rankings. And I've got Texas A&M at 14. They just played a little team, New Mexico State, last week and blew them out like you would expect them to do. They won 38 to 3. And BYU is 14 in the college football playoff rankings. And I've got Clemson at 15. They played Pittsburgh, who beat a bunch of terrible ACC teams and got started at 7-0 this season, and then now has lost 3 games in a row. Pittsburgh's turned out to not be any good, and Clemson only beat them 24 to 20, and Texas A&M is 15 in the college football playoff rankings, and I've got Iowa State at 16. So they played Cincinnati last week and beat them up pretty easily, 34 to 17. So they did okay. And the college football playoff rankings have Colorado at 16. I've got Arizona State at 17, and the college football playoff rankings have Clemson at 17. Arizona State, got a good win over at Kansas State on the road last week, so that's why I moved them up in my rankings. And I have Colorado at 18. They blew out Utah last week, 49 to 24, but that actually doesn't really mean anything because Utah has turned out to be so terrible this season. They're only 4-6. They're the second worst team in the Big 12 this season. The Big 12 conference, to be honest, doesn't have a top 12 team this year. And the college football playoff rankings have South Carolina at 18. I've got Boise State at 19. And South Carolina at 20. South Carolina didn't beat Missouri last week by near as much as I would have thought. They only beat them 34 to 30, but they've got a decent team this year. I think they've got a good chance to beat Clemson. And the playoff rankings have Army at number 19, and Army I didn't rank because they haven't even played a Power Four opponent this season. Now they will this week when they play Notre Dame, and I think they will get blown out. And I have Kansas State at 21 because now, even though they've lost 3 games and 2 in a row, the win they have over Colorado was just enough for me to keep them ranked. The college football playoff rankings have Tulane at 20 and Arizona State at 21. So I've got Illinois at 22. They blew out Michigan State last week, 38 to 16. Who isn't a very good team, but still that was pretty good for Illinois. And Iowa State is at 22nd in the playoff rankings, and I've got Washington State at 23. I have them ranked because they're 8-2, but I don't actually think they're a very good team, and they lost last week to a little team. The college football playoff rankings have Missouri at 23, but I didn't rank Missouri because they've shown this season that they're obviously just not very good. And UNLV, I've got ranked at 24, which is also the 24th ranked team in the playoff rankings. So UNLV, even though they're a group of five team, I have them ranked because at least they do have two Power Four wins over Houston and Kansas. And I've got Tulane at 25. Illinois is 25 in the playoff rankings. Tulane has only played two Power Four opponents, and those were their two losses. And they did lose to Oklahoma by two touchdowns, who has turned out to be a terrible team. But they did almost beat Kansas State. But that will be it with this video, and please subscribe, and thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.